Greetings, initiating, ardent, action-oriented Aries. My name is Eliane Nicole. I'm an astrologer and tarot card reader, and now I'm going to do the November 2020 forecast for the sign of Aries. I'm going to do a tarot reading in the beginning of the video, and in the second half of the video, I'm going to talk about some of the planetary transits for November. And I recommend that you follow me on Instagram at astrology.tarot.elianenicole, where I do more regular updates in my stories and posts on the planetary transits as well as they're unfolding, if you're interested in knowing more about that. And of course, the best way is always to have your own individual tailor-made reading that's around your chart and cards specifically. But in the meantime and in between time, these monthly overviews are a great way to get an idea of how it all works and what to expect if you watch the videos for your sun, moon, and rising in particular. So, as we enter the month of November, Aries, you have the Seven of Swords. And so this looks like you were holding on to some information and you were covered by the Nine of Cups, and it's a wish coming true. And you were crossed by the King of Swords, and this is a man making a decision, possibly, a man of business, a man of intellect. The basis, the Three of Swords reversed, so your heart is healing, you are healing. What is leaving is the Eight of Cups reversed, a meeting or reunion. What could come into being is the Three of Cups. This is socializing, time with friends. What will come into being? The Emperor reversed. So this is a man who's looking out of alignment around mid-month. The Emperor can be a husband card, a boss card, landlord card, the President of the United States card. Fears or insecurities, the Hanged Man. So this might be being in a state of suspension, waiting for something. Others see you juggling a practical decision, financial or a practical decision of some kind. Positive feelings. The Empress reversed. So this could be, when the Empress is reversed, it's a woman who is maybe stagnant, maybe stuck, maybe slowing down. The Empress reverse can come up if people are having trouble getting pregnant sometimes, on any of those things. The outcome, the Ace of Cups. This is the birth of new love, the birth of a baby, the birth of a new relationship. The hand of God is handing you something in the realm of love and happiness around the end of November. So I have to say, once we get past mid-November, we've been through the most difficult part of the year. And if you're watching this video, you've already made it through some of the most difficult astrology of 2020 in an already very difficult year. So congratulations, Aries. You're a warrior, you're a survivor. And it hasn't been easy, particularly for Aries, because of the Mars retrograde season of 2020. That is having an impact on everybody, but really on Aries, because that's in your first house. And the first house is the house of the self and of the body and the personality, the identity. And for Mars to be traveling through their retrograde, interacting with other planets within your chart, particularly the Capricorn cluster in your 10th house of career and attainment, as well as, you know, interacting with some of the other planets that are going on during Libra season. It was hitting up your house of marriage and partnership and relationship. And you know, but as we enter the beginning of November, we're in Scorpio season now. And so the sun is in your 8th house. And so Scorpio season highlights issues for Aries regarding 8th house things like other people's money. This can be wills, inheritances, alimony, settlements, debts, loans. It can have to do with investors or donors. Anything, your spouse's money, your partner's money is reflected in the 8th house. So these issues are highlighted by the sun traveling through that house during Scorpio season. And at the beginning of the month, we've just come off of the blue moon that was Halloween, October 31st. So November 1st, we're still under the influence of that blue moon. It's still in Taurus. By November 1st, it's gone to 16 degrees Taurus. By the time we enter November, the full moon was at 8 degrees Taurus, blue moon. But this blue moon was conjunct Uranus. And so because of that conjunction, it was bringing the unexpected, which a blue moon is already a time of kind of the unexpected. It's already very rarefied, you know, air. And so many astrologers are expecting a surprise with that blue moon. For Aries, that blue moon is in your 2nd house. The 2nd house is the house of finances and resources, and it's also the house of self-worth and values. And so there could be some shakeup, some jolt that has you look at things in a different way in that area of your life. And November 3rd, Mercury stations direct after being in retrograde 3 weeks. November 3rd is election day. Because of the direct station, I anticipate we likely will not find out for certain on election day who wins. And it's likely that because Mercury was retrograde beforehand, that there were mistakes and errors. There's the possibility of mail having been lost. There's the possibility of miscounts and all of those kinds of things. Even once Mercury goes direct, until we get out of the shadow, until it returns to the degree it was when it went retrograde in the first place, we're still under the influence of all that mercurial kind of confusion that is just going to make it, I think, difficult for us to have an actual answer, fair and square, clearly who's won president at that time. And we will probably have to wait until closer to, like I said, around the 20th. Another thing about the beginning of November is that it's Dia de los Muertos, you know, and October 30th to November 3rd are the days of the dead. And, you know, and Halloween falls in there on October 31st. And this is because in many ancient civilizations and cultures and spiritual traditions, this is the time of the year where the veil is the thinnest between the two worlds. You know, the non-physical realm and the physical. And so, you know, the ancestors are near, they're communing. This is the time of the year that they visit us. And so we're having that energy also happening at the beginning of November with the blue moon and Mercury stationing. And so, you know, it's just a lot of very potent energy that we are experiencing. And Mercury direct for Aries is going to be happening in your house of marriage and relationships. And so it's also partnerships. So this will be a time where communication will start to clear up about fairness, balance, equality, It could be around love or marriage. It can also be around justice, or it could also be in any kind of partnership surrounding art and beauty and those Libra themes. It's not only marriages. Sometimes a lot of times it's marriages, but it's also business partnerships. And we also look at Libra in transit readings for quarrels and court cases and things like that. And so with Mercury in that house, it can be, anything from communication between spouses to communication between business partners to communication between opposing sides on a legal battle, And so that's why it's always good to get your own reading with an astrologer, because then we can fine tune it to what's going on in your life and really follow the thread of the story all the way through. But yeah, so again, Mercury, it goes direct on the 3rd, but it doesn't return to the degree it was when it went retrograde until the 20th. So keep that in mind while communication will start to clear up, while whatever your Mercury retrograde story is going to start to improve. This could be a time where, like, if you did any contracts or started any new deals during Mercury retrograde, things might come up for review that you didn't notice, that you didn't think of, that were unexpected, like things like that, now that Mercury's going direct. But everything then should be cleared up, and then you're back on track by November 20th kind of thing. So November 9th, Ceres enters Pisces. For Aries, this is in your 12th house of hidden karma. And this is also the house of confinement. It can be the house of jails, hospitals, and institutions. And this could manifest in a couple of different ways. It's an asteroid, but it is it's important because this is an area of your life that needs some tender love and care. And for you, the 12th house is the house of hidden karma. And because, I think you should be meditating on a daily basis during this period. You should be praying on a daily basis during this period. It could be that someone who you know and love is in the hospital or in some sort of state of confinement, who needs to be nurtured and who needs some tender love and care. You may be confined or alone and needing to find ways to give yourself that kind of tender love and care. But this is all about nurturing ourselves. And with Ceres and Pisces, it's about a very, loving, sweet approach to nurturing. It's nurturing, I believe, with music, with poetry, with art, with dreams, with mysticism, with water, things like this. So that's in your 12th house, and it's a very spiritual house. So it's a time to nurture your spiritual inner self. And then on November 10th, Mercury enters Scorpio. And so now Mercury is forward again, and it's stepping back into Scorpio, which is where it was when it went retrograde in the first place. So we're getting closer to being in the clear from whatever mistakes or what things, arguments, miscommunications, backward stuff that happened during the Mercury retrograde. We're getting closer to this stuff being cleared up. And as it gets back into Scorpio, for Aries, now you are going to be communicating about these areas where there may have been some mix-ups at the beginning of the retrograde period. So for you, this is the 8th house. This is your partner or spouse's finances. It's other people's money. So again, loans, wills, investments, alimony, debts, donors, investors, any of these things. So communication should start to be cleared up. And November 12th, Jupiter is conjunct Pluto. This is the third Jupiter conjunct Pluto, the third and final one of the year. So here we are, finally. The year is coming to a crescendo with this astrology. Jupiter conjunct Pluto, we have been watching. It has mirrored the surges in the virus. This is going to be the third and the final, and probably the largest surge. And I say that because the first two surges, we just kind of had that Capricorn cluster to contend with, the Jupiter and Pluto, but now Mars is stationing direct and basically, coming for a square with them. And so this is this is probably going to be the biggest wave we've seen around this time. And even though, these aspects, they build and they go. I'm just telling you the date where they're forming exact. There's a 3-degree orb on each end where we're already feeling the effects of it. So, then finally, November 13th, Mars goes direct, but it's going to be still for a couple of days before it starts moving. And so this is a very intense energy around this time of the month. And then November 14th is the new moon of Scorpio. And so the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction for Aries is happening in the 10th house of your career and attainment and reputation. So this is going to be a point of, an opportunity for expansion. You could meet a very powerful and influential person who could help you in your career. You could possibly have some expansion of your business or finances related to your business or something to do with your work. Or there could be just some deeply kind of transformational activity that's taking place for you around this time, and it's part of a larger story that's already been unfolding this year, and this is where it kind of reaches a climax for you finally around mid-November. And then the Mars direct is, of course, in your first house. So if you're an Aries Sun, Moon, or Rising who's been, as many Aries that I've been reading for have been having some kind of thing around their head or face, some kind of health issues, or either inflammation or cuts, burns, scrapes, bruises, all of the Mars kind of stuff that's been going on, it's going to start healing. It's going to start correcting itself. It's going to start regenerating, not as soon as Mars goes direct. In fact, there might be an increased feeling of it before it starts to straighten out. And for people who have not even yet experienced that Mars-related kind of physical effect that I've spoken of, this could be the moment where it happens. However, once Mars kind of starts to get back on its direct path, and particularly after it returns to the degree it was when it went retrograde in the first place, these things are going to start to straighten out. They're not forever. They were just a passing transit. Thank God, right? I got some weird random Mars rash. I never get rashes. I got a Mars rash. So, all of this stuff will start clearing up with Mars going direct eventually. November 14th, the new moon in Scorpio is in your 8th house. Again, this is a big theme for Aries. I keep coming back to other people's money. And so this it can be your spouse's money, but it can be, your partner's money, any kind of joint finances situation that you're involved in. It could also be, settlements, loans, debts, alimony, wills, inheritances, any of that kinds of stuff. These are going to be, you may be having a new start around these themes, as it is already coming up in the astrological timing. However, also the new moon is a good time to set very clear intentions around what you want to manifest with these in these areas of your life. And, and then the other thing about that 8th house is that it can be death, it can be regeneration, so reinventing yourself, and it can be things like that as well. So anyway, that's the new moon, and I encourage a ritual, and really taking the time to lock into that new moon energy and set those intentions. And November 20th, Mercury is finally out of the shadow period of retrograde. So I think by now, anything that went down in Mercury retrograde, you should have cleared up by this point. Whatever the technical glitches, whatever the communication glitches, whatever. And this is also the time that I expect that we actually get a clear and certain answer on who the president is. November 21st, Venus enters Scorpio. This is a very seductive and sexy Venus. And Venus, of course, is what we're attracted to. And so, we can be attracted to the dark side, to the occult, to the femme fatale, to mysteries, to all those kind of Scorpio things, power and influence, things of that nature. And there's a real energetic shift finally at the 20th to the 21st. There's an energetic shift to what we've gone through this year, and we're getting to the point in the year where I think that we are all like kind of despite whatever else is going on, kind of trying to take a collective deep breath. And so Venus enters Scorpio and the Sun enters Sagittarius on November 21st. Lighthearted, jovial, optimistic Sagittarius. And I think there's going to be a feeling of hope at this time for all of us, regardless of what it's like. We know what we're dealing with and we're going to move forward. And for Aries, Sagittarius is a trine, so this is going to be a very energizing aspect for you. It's going to stimulate you into action. You're going to feel inspired. And the Sagittarius Sun will be happening in your 9th house of spirituality and religion and, your belief system. So I think that this is going to be a real renewal of spirituality and a real renewal of faith for Aries at this time. And for some, it might actually mean travel at this time, international travel possibly, or some kind of cross-cultural experiences could be happening. And where it's applicable, as the Sun enters Sagittarius, it's going to be highlighting issues of like publishing and broadcasting for some Aries. And then November 28th, Neptune goes direct. And this is significant because I think that this is one of the underlying kind of underspoken about planets that is playing in the whole COVID scenario that we see reflected back to us from the cosmos. And whereas, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that began 2020 and that complete lineup in Capricorn that began 2020 on January 12th, this Neptune that's been in the background has been a subtle, player in shifting and moving this energy around. And I really think that Neptune going direct is part of us being on the way to, it's not a return to a normal, but a step into finally some semblance of what the new normal will actually be, and in other words, the COVID cloud is going to very, very slowly start to be passing at this time. But I don't think that we're out of the COVID cloud until March 21st. And I don't know exactly how that comes into being. I just know from looking at the astrology that looks like the time, whether there's a treatment, whether there's a vaccine, weather. I don't know exactly how it works out, but I just know that that seems to be the time where we're from under the cloud. So, and then finally, November 30th. Oh, and Neptune for Aries goes direct in your house of hidden karma. And so, again, this is an area where there's going to be vagueness and cloudiness. The thing about Neptune, direct or forward, it can create a bit of a fog. But I think forward, it makes it easier to maybe connect with your vision. I don't know. It can be, that's a mysterious house for Aries anyway, so I don't want to go too much down that rabbit hole in this video. But finally, November 30th is the full moon pre-numbral lunar eclipse, and that's happening in Gemini. So that's happening in your house of communication, the third house of communication. It's also the house of the siblings. It's also house of the neighbors and the neighborhood. So any of those areas could be highlighted by this eclipse. Lunar eclipses, full moons, they highlight an area of life. Lunar eclipses can bring up the shadow in those areas. So that is the end of the month. But for Aries, this is a sextile relationship, I want to say, between Gemini and Aries. And so, again, in the Tarot, I see the hand of God reaching out to you at the end of the month with that lunar eclipse. And so I think that, it's going to be a positive eclipse, even though the shadow is brought up maybe somewhere in others or yourself. It looks like it's a gift. It's an opportunity for something new. And so that's it for the Aries overview for November 2020. If you like this video, give me a like. If you didn't like it, give me a don't like. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please follow me on Instagram at astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole. And of course, as always, I think the way that you get the most out of astrology and the tarot is one-on-one reading. So I do encourage you to contact me for your own personal reading. I'm reading on Zoom during quarantine, so I can read for people virtually anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world. And thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful November, Aries.